Father Barnabas Powell is pastor of Saints Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene, Greek Orthodox Church of Cumming, Georgia, USA. Here's Father Barnabas with Sunday's homily.
When I was a boy, I had a horrible earache. And my grandmother, who was a nurse in the old Fulton Bag cotton mill years ago when my grandfather worked in the Fulton Bag cotton mill, and my mother worked in the infirmary as a nurse. And so immediately, of course, if I didn't feel well, if I had a problem, if I wasn't feeling good, if I had a fever, the first person I'd call was Mama. Mama, I've got an earache. She said, well, honey, get your mama to heat up a little olive oil and drop it in your ear, and then put your little cotton ball in there and put it in there, and it'll get better. I said, really? And then I asked my mama something. I said, Mama, why in the world do we have fevers, and why do we have pain? And I'll never forget what she told me. She said, honey, it's important for your body to tell you if something's wrong. If you have a fever, if you're experiencing pain, it's the way that your body has to warn you there's something wrong. And that's exactly what's true in our lives, not just in our physical bodies, but in every part of our life. If we're having turmoil, if we're having difficulty in our life, if we're having bitterness and anger and backbiting and fussing and carrying on, going on in our lives, whether we're young or we're old or we're in the middle age or wherever we are, those are warning signs, if we're awake to them, to tell us there's a point of illness someplace. There's a spiritual illness someplace. Now, there are some folks who think that that's just the way we do. I never will forget growing up in the home that I was in, you weren't allowed to raise your voice inside the house. If you did raise your voice inside the house, that meant somebody was going to either get a pop or you're going to be asked to step outside. And if you're asked to step outside, there'll be more than one pop. Now, my wife was raised in a home, none of you Greeks will understand this, where the decibel level of the house was at about 130 all the time. That was just to say good morning. I never will forget the first time that I went with my wife to a family gathering when we were just engaged, and it was at Pascha, and her uncles were there at the dinner table, and we were outside as a big group of folks, and man, they just started yelling and screaming at each other. And I thought, well, I'm about to. I got comfortable. I was going to watch a good fight. Go, boys. And they were just yelling, and you know, of course, they were speaking all in Greek. I didn't understand what they were saying. They could have been saying, you know, you look really good today. I'm really praying, you know, how's business? And I don't know. But they were just yelling and screaming at each other. I mean, just furious. And then they put their arms around each other and sat down and ate dinner. Completely disconnected. I have no idea what happened. I don't know. My point is, though, is this, that if we are awake in our lives to the point of pain is, where illness is, where spiritual illness is, where physical illness is, if we're awake enough, if we pay attention enough, if we are attentive enough, we will be able to get ahead of the pathogens that destroy relationships. I can't tell you how many times I have been right and hurt others. You can be right in all the wrong ways, to the point that you create such bitterness and anger among other folks. Doesn't matter if you're right. They're not going to hear you. That is a signal, a warning sign. There's a spiritual illness among us. There's a spiritual illness in my heart. I can't tell you how many times, and I've been proud of winning an argument and wonder why in the world they wasn't happy about getting beat. Why ain't you happy about getting beat? They were upset with me. It's just amazing to me. I was completely asleep to the warning sign that there was a spiritual illness going on. It's the reason why the Apostle Paul says what he says today. he says to his dear son, his spiritual son Titus, he says, listen, Titus was a local presbyter of a parish that the Apostle Paul had started. He eventually became bishop. And Titus was told, Titus, make sure you tell your people to busy themselves doing good works. Busy themselves doing good works. I was with a fellow priest yesterday, and they were having their very first international festival. And he told me this story that I thought was perfect for this homily today. He said there was a person who brought their food in, and right at the beginning there was a fight. And the guy just gathered his stuff with his dad and just left. Huff off. We're upset. And so this priest, this really sweet, godly man, calls up the dad who had helped one of the founders of the church. And he said, brother, you're doing good work here. Why in the world are you allowing such conflict to drive you away from the church you helped build? Come back. Put away this arguing and be at peace. And the son, of course, he stayed away. He's just upset. But the dad came back and served and helped. When a community, when a person, when a lifestyle, when a society, when a country, when a world is asleep to the warning signs of spiritual pathogens in our lives, we fall prey to the spiritual illnesses that debilitate us and build walls and build wounds where there should be healing. Make no mistake, we are called to do good works, not just think good thoughts. Your intentions are wonderful. Your actions are more powerful. I never will forget when I messed up one time and I told the bishop, I said, Bishop, I am so sorry. And the bishop said, son, if you have to say I'm sorry, it's already too late. I was confused by that. He said, that's an old Greek saying, if you have to say I'm sorry, it's already too late. And so I said, Bishop, what does that mean? He said, understand that it's wonderful that you're saying you're sorry. It's more important to show that you understand what was wrong and then change your behavior. That's the key. It was brilliant. It's wonderful to feel sorrow. That's a good thing. And to say, I'm sorry. One of the greatest gifts you can do. In fact, one of the fathers say, get used to saying, please forgive me. In your life, get used to saying, please forgive me. And you will have a heart developed inside of you that is tender and kind and quick to forgive yourself and quick to forgive others. But if you don't teach your heart how to be tender and kind and merciful and patient, you'll find yourself gripped by bitterness and illness, spiritually and even physically. And so it's important for us to understand that the way to do that is to busy ourselves with doing good works. This hard work coming up next week with this festival. You know how I feel about these things, folks. They're fantastic community events, absolute worst fundraiser that Jesus ever made. Absolutely horrible. We have so much effort and so much work that goes into these events, as wonderful as they are. There's no way we would ever make enough money to warrant the hard work some of you, many of you, are doing at this festival. You are doing yeoman's work, hard work, and you are to be blessed and thanked for that, because those are the good works we're talking about this morning. But if we allow the spiritual illness of bitterness or anger or being contentious to grow up in our lives, in our midst, even those good works become unhelpful to your spiritual growth and your spiritual maturity. I want to encourage you today as we get ready to do this very hard work to understand we're not doing this to make money. If you are doing this to make money, folks, your heart is already too dark to really get the benefit of this work. God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. Money ain't no problem for God, folks. And the lack of money is never a problem in a church. Watch me. Look at me in the face. Mark this in your head and never let it go away. The lack of money in a church is never a problem. It is the symptom of a problem. And until you find where the illness is, you'll always have the symptom. That is a hard and fast rule that is not going to change. So we don't do this festival to make money. We do this festival to invite our community to come and experience the joy of this place. You know what I tell them here in the church tour? I said, folks, y'all want to know why that food tastes so good out there? Because of what we do in here. Do you know why there's so many smiles on the people out there? Because of the spiritual labor, the good works we do in here when we come together and pray. This is a manifestation. This joy that you see at this festival is a manifestation of the Holy Spirit's presence in our midst, changing us and making us a community. Not a dysfunctional family, a community. Where we are growing together and working together to do good works. But what did the Apostle Paul tell Titus? Mark the contentious man. And correct him 2 or 3 times. But after that, say nothing else to him. Mark the contentious one, the one causing bitterness and anger and trouble among you. Mark them. Not for punishment, but for healing. That is our key, my brothers and sisters. That's the motivation that will create love inside of you and not bitterness and anger. You want to get along with your wife? When you have a warning sign, a spiritual fever, find out what's causing the sickness. You want to get along with your husband? When you're having warning signs of conflict, stay awake to what's going on. Ask, God, where is the illness? Having trouble getting along with your kids? I like what Bill Cosby said. Son, you keep this up, I'll take you out. I can make another one just like you. If you're having trouble with your children, find out what's causing the fever. Don't just treat the fever. Find out what the root cause is. Be courageous enough, humble enough, honest enough, brave enough to find out what's causing the fever. Where's the infection? And ask God to heal you. This morning, brothers and sisters, if you will busy yourselves with good works, primarily the good work of dealing with your own spiritual illnesses and not noticing the spiritual illnesses of others. If you will focus on doing that good work in your own heart, you will not be the contentious man. You will not be the bitter woman. You will not be the troublemaker. You will not be the source of conflict. You will be the source of healing. This morning, in this gloriously wonderful, hot bed of spiritual healing, the greenhouse where God grows His finest plants, you're in the right place to have every spiritual illness in your life healed. If you'll just admit you're sick. Amen.
You can follow Father Barnabas on YouTube or on our church website at stsrni.org. Thank you for watching.